Hello everybody and welcome back to Signs and Wonders. Thank you for joining me tonight. If you are new to the channel, please hit subscribe, give me a like or a dislike or whatever you want to do. Tonight I'm doing a story on the Giant of Kandahar in Afghanistan. Some of you, most of you, maybe a lot of you may have heard of this. Maybe a lot of you haven't. Hopefully you haven't, that's why I'm doing it, but a lot of stuff has resurfaced lately about it. There was a story back in 2002 about a military group in Afghanistan. One guy was killed. They came across like a 12 or 15 foot tall giant in a cave in Afghanistan, and it's pretty crazy. So anyway, I'll let you guys watch. In the video I've included an actual interview of the special forces officer that actually took the giant down and made the killing shot. So yeah, enjoy guys. It's one of the most bizarre stories to come out of America's longest war. An allegation United States Special Forces engaged and killed a giant in Afghanistan. But it's being reported by multiple sources. Several eyewitnesses claim the battle not only took the life of an American soldier, but that the government flew the huge corpse of the attacker back to the United States. Reporter and researcher L.A. Marzulli, who some of you may have heard of, explored the spectacular charge. These creatures were the offspring of the sons of God, the angels and the daughters of men. In Genesis chapter 6 and Numbers chapter 13 verses 33, the Bible speaks of giants populating the earth. When ordinary people saw them, they said, "We were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight." A strange passage, but one Marzulli contends is backed by evidence. What's more, these giants didn't just exist in biblical times, but live on through the present day. This soldier testified there were rumors at his base in Afghanistan about the engagement with what became known as the Giant of Kandahar. "We started hearing a rumor about a unit that killed what they were calling a really tall person," he told Marzulli. "At first, I didn't think anything of it. I come to find out that the person they killed was actually 3 times the size of a man, had extra digits on their hands and on their feet, and he had red hair," says the soldier. He goes on to say, "A special unit had come and wanted this target. We'd heard they'd killed this thing inside a cave or the mouth of a cave." Another operator who spoke to Marzulli said those in power have a vested interest in keeping the story covered up. "If it points to the Bible's narrative being accurate, they don't want it," he said. "If it goes against Darwinian evolution, it's not to be spoken of." In the summer of 2016, several personalities and websites began claiming that an American Special Forces soldier serving in Kandahar, Afghanistan, was killed in 2002 by an 1,100-pound, blade-wielding, 12 to 15 foot tall giant from Old Testament times, before the giant himself was taken down by the military. A Department of Defense spokesman stated they have no record of such an incident. "We do not have any record or information about a Special Forces member killed by a giant in Kandahar." Marzulli makes the case that the giant was a Nephilim, however you want to pronounce it, which were described in the book of Genesis as offspring of gods and human women who inhabited Canaan at the time of the Israelite conquest. But when it comes down to details, he's vague, saying he interviewed the unnamed man at an undisclosed location on an unknown date. The interviewee, who has claimed shot and killed the giant, doesn't give any details on the location of the alleged incident, other than to say it was a remote location in Afghanistan in 2002. He claims he and others were sent in to look for a missing patrol when they saw a scarlet-haired giant emerge from a cave and skewer his friend, who he called Dan, with a large blade. If the Army's statement isn't sufficient, the only service member with the first name Dan or Daniel, who died in Kandahar in 2002, was killed along with 3 others in an accident involving the clearing and disposal of explosives. There are no incidents on the Department of Defense press release page in which all military casualties were listed involving a giant. Likewise, there are no reports of an entire patrol disappearing in Afghanistan. Okay guys, so here's the interview with L.A. Mazzilli, or whatever his name is, and the alleged Special Forces officer that shot the giant. I may have to pause the interview now and then just so we can kind of analyze the video together so I don't get hit with a copyright, but I'll try and keep it short and sweet.
You were in Afghanistan in 2002, and you were called into a very remote section of Afghanistan because a patrol had basically gone missing.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
There's no villages around
nothing
for miles.
Right.
So it's very remote.
Yeah, very remote. So we flew in. About 4 kilometers. We're hiking through the same area where they were supposed to make one of their checkpoints, one of their rally points. And before we left, there was all kinds of what.
This is really weird, but that looks like my clip from the beginning of my video. Does it not? Is that not the same clip? Is L.A. Mazzilli copyrighting me? Should I copyright strike this guy or what? I just noticed that, but that clip there is like from my video. I could be wrong, but I mean, Afghanistan all looks the same, but that kind of looks like the clip from the beginning of my video.
Happened with an ambush, but that was even odd because at point of ambush, you would call for maybe close air support, something, okay? There was no calls made, just off the...
Hey, sorry to stop it again so soon, but that was the clip from my video. If you guys go back to the starting, you'll see that same clip, same mountain peak, except my clip has my watermark up in the top right corner, and his doesn't. It's the exact same clip.
Off the bridge. So we're coming down a mountainside, and it was a nice path, a goat path. As we bent around this corner, you could see this opening of the cave. There's a cave as we're coming around. And then I see there's a lot of rocks, which is another oddity, and then bone matter. When I'm not close enough to identify what kind of bones, but I did see something I knew was a piece of our communications equipment. So instantly we're thinking ambush, maybe animal, it could be anything. And there was enough room in front of this cave, but it had a sheer drop off. But there was enough room that we actually got into a decent dispersal in case of ambush.
You see something coming out of the cave, and it's moving with a speed and agility that catches you off guard.
Everybody. And he comes out. It was a man at least 12 to 15 feet in height. This is a monster. Red beard, then his hair was longish, past the shoulder, a scarlet red, and Dan runs at him and starts shooting, which broke all of us into the reality. Because it was so real.
Now your training is kicking in.
Oh yeah,
okay.
Muscle memory, complete muscle memory. While Dan is moving at him, another bro of mine's laying down fire and I start firing. He skewers Dan.
Ooh, there goes Dan.
He's now got him on this pike. It went through him. And he's still got him, and he's coming after more. We all just clicked in. I don't know what it was, but I remember we're all like, shoot him in the face, shoot him in the face. And our weapons components were in force. We had 308s, and we had Barrett 50s. This is sounding longer than it took. We're talking 30 seconds. And he's taking multiple hits.
So what do you guys think so far? He sounds pretty legit. Doesn't sound like he's lying, but it could, you never know, right? 30 seconds straight, all those guys were dumping bullets at this thing for 30 seconds. Like, that guy took a lot of fire. Like, big person.
And it's still moving.
He talked about this giant being 1,100 pounds, anywhere from 10 to 15 feet long.
I could take him.
And it was killed. It was apparently shot somewhere in a cave in Afghanistan. But before it was shot, it lunged at several of our troops, our soldiers. It may have even gorged somebody. It was just a bizarre story, and it just sounds like the Nephilim from the Bible, doesn't it?
That's why we're so fascinated by this.
Dan was dead. Okay. And Wyatt is a good man, probably one of the best men I know, now dead.
Because he got impaled with a giant pike.
Before I'd left, they were already starting what they call a 9-line, which is a medevac request. They're sending out a medevac request, then all of a sudden it's not a medevac request. All of a sudden we had a helicopter show up because, like I told you, it was a large precipice and a sheer drop. So the helicopter just came up from the drop. They had dropped netting, which is like cargo netting. It's like squares. We were told we had to bundle him up. And we get another bigger helicopter, but it's almost like a Jolly Green Giant used to look back in the day. They could get, through this area. Because the mountains, you gotta remember, Chinooks could only go in certain places because they had enough lift. Mm-hmm. And so we got him on there. The thing was too big, we couldn't move it. It smelled worse than a skunk. A corpse that's been around for a while.
Really fell.
Oh, it was like a combination because of the, how do you put that, the persistence of a skunk smell, but once the helicopter came in, dropped its little hook, and off he goes. The communication was sent out that we had a very large, possible human creature.
There you are in the hills of Afghanistan. How many troop members are you with?
We had 6 on my crew. And when you say hills of Afghanistan, for us, we did not fly into the wilderness. We actually flew into a base. I guess this thing was transloaded out of the mountains by a CH-47. What I could see that it did have the 6 fingers. I remember taking my foot up and placing it up next to its foot, and it was extremely large. We estimated at about 12 feet, give or take. What I can tell you is the weight of the thing. Basically, it was approximately 1,500 pounds when it was getting on the aircraft. Now, if you take away the pallet weight and all the rigging that we had to hold this thing down, we figured it was around 1,100 pounds.
Wow, 1,100 pounds. Hey guys, that's one big boy. That's crazy. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. You think it's a Nephilim or a Nephilim, or do you think there's any credibility to this story?
Of course we're upset. That's a given, okay? We lost a very good guy. But add to that, you're discussing something that even in our after action report, they're saying rewrite it. And we had to rewrite it the way they wanted.
How many fingers?
6, and 6
fingers
toes.
and 6 toes.
And the nails were weird because if you see somebody that ever has, I don't know what it's called, but it's
Like a fungus on
the nails, how they get pointy and they're like gnarly. That's what they look like.
I have a right to know about this stuff. I mean, if there are 15-footers or 18-footers roaming the planet.
Don't you just love this guy building up the hype, L.A. Missouri? If there goes from 12-footers to 18-footers, if there are 14-footers to 18-footers roaming the planet.
And our military has brought them down. I mean, we have a right as American citizens. I mean, this isn't classified military stuff. This is something that we need to know, and it points back to the biblical prophetic narrative. What are your thoughts on that?
I think, here's my personal opinion. My personal opinion is if it points that the Bible is accurate, they don't want it. If it goes against Darwinian evolution, it's not to be spoken of.
So you're out in the boonies running around looking for high-value targets.
Correct. Okay. And we're doing those operations, and as we're getting into firefights, we're getting into different scrimmages, you want to put it that way, we would come back to the base and we started hearing this rumor about a unit that killed this, what they started calling this really tall person. At first I didn't think anything of it, and then come to find out that the person that they killed actually was 3 times the size of a man, had extra digits on their hand and digits on their feet, and had red hair, and a special unit had come in and wanted this target. Well, we'd heard that they had killed this thing inside a cave or the mouth of a cave. And it was common knowledge among the military to hear this.
And when you say common knowledge, what do you mean? I mean, how does that work?
Years later, to come to find out, when I had returned from Afghanistan and had met other military members that had not been there in the operations with me, if you would bring up the Giant of Kandahar, they knew about it. When you first hear it, you're thinking like, this has got to be a joke. This has got to be a hoax. And then after things go down a certain way and you keep hearing it, you start to realize it's not a joke. They kept telling us to keep our weapons high, which means normally it's two to the chest, one to the head, but they kept telling us to put it towards a man's head and put it higher. So we would question, why do they want us to shoot higher than a man's head?
That's bizarre.
It is.
Our contact said 2002 is when they shot this 15-footer or taller, and you're now in this, you know, in the service around 2005. This word has gotten out, and what I find interesting here too is that if you're going to create a hoax, I get that, but you got details: 6 fingers, red hair, double rows of teeth, 6 digits on the toes, and of course that brings it right back into what we hear about in the biblical prophetic narrative, specifically the Nephilim. Your thoughts?
I agree. I will tell you that when I was doing my time in the service, and the stuff I saw, some of it I couldn't explain, like lights in the sky during firefights, like orbs, or lights that would be the size of a softball that looked that size looking up in the sky but making weird noises. And even going to Iraq myself and being near Haditha Dam and seeing the prisoners underneath the dam, and the prisoners would scream and there'd be this awful feeling underneath the dam, and then later finding out in the Bible that angels locked underneath there, where it talks about.
And this Haditha Dam is the Euphrates.
Is Euphrates,
and there's
correct.
an angel supposedly locked underneath the Euphrates,
Correct.
which is released in the book of Revelation.
Correct.
That's bizarre. So you're actually at this site, and soldiers are being locked, imprisoned underneath the Haditha Dam.
Correct.
And they're freaking out.
They were freaking out. They said they could feel it. In fact, the people who would guard them they would draw straws to see who would actually take them.
No one wanted to go down.
Nobody wants to go down. Going back to Afghanistan, we would hear these things. We would hear the locals talk about rumors of these giants.
What would the locals say? How would they talk about it?
They say that they lived in the caves and they would eat people, and
They were cannibals.
they were cannibals. And we, at the time, chalked it up to our United States as Bigfoot.
Thank you guys so much for watching Signs and Wonders. I hope you enjoyed the show. If this is your first time here, please subscribe, hit that like button. We got lots of awesome content. We got live debates, live shows, end times videos, unexplained mysteries, all kinds of stuff. So if it's your first time here, hit that button, subscribe, and to everyone who is coming back, thank you so much for watching, and until next time.